We're going to move back to Israel. Okay, I want you to put yourself in the sandals of those Israelites this morning. You got a picture standing along the shore of the Red Sea, okay? And the Red Sea, it's not like Shawnee Mission Lake. It's huge. It's like an ocean. And here they are. They're standing against this great body of water. And on the other side of them is Pharaoh's army. And if Pharaoh's army catches them, he's going to destroy them. I don't think he's going to take them back into Egypt. Do you understand what I'm saying? He's going to destroy them. And so here they are. In our modern terminology, we would say they're between a rock and a hard place. Right? You ever been there? Between a rock and a hard place, I mean.
Many times.
Many times, right? For some of us, that's familiar territory. And we need something to happen. Very, very few times can you muscle yourself out of a rock and a hard place. How many of you can swim the Red Sea? Swim it, I said. It'd be hard to do, wouldn't it? I remember in the rock opera, Jesus Christ Superstar. Jesus is there. He's been arrested. And he's got the people who should love him, the Jews on one side, who want him crucified. And he's got the Romans on the other side. He's between a rock and a hard place, right? Now, in this Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, the disciples speak, "Hang on, Lord, we're going to fight for you. Hang on, Lord, we're going to fight for you. Hang on." And they all disappeared. They were helpless to get Jesus out of that spot. They're helpless to get themselves out of any spot. You see? So something else has to happen. About 23 years ago, I was leading as the full-time pastor of Monticello United Methodist Church. I wasn't leaving because I'd been transferred. I wasn't leaving because the congregation asked me to go. I was leaving because I was in a wheelchair and a walker. MS was really taking hold of me. And there was no medicine like there is now to treat it. Nothing. And so I was moving from full-time ministry, giving up not only all that responsibility that was with Monticello, but also a full-time paycheck. Amen? Hear me? And we had just purchased a house. 5 kids. Gone to part-time ministry, waiting for disability to kick in, which it hadn't yet. I was between a rock and a hard place. That's exactly what I felt like. Amen? You understand? 5 kids, gave up a full-time job, just purchased a house. Vicky delivering pizzas at that time. God, please let the tits be good. Right? And I got a little short-tempered. I got a little nasty, wondering what was going to happen the next day. I was pushed just about as far as this old soul could be pushed. And in the midst of that, Vicky came in and she bought me a little sign. And she walked up to me and she held it right in front of my face, about like this. That sign said, "One day at a time." Amen? One day at a time. That's all you can have, right? No matter how you may want the circumstance you're in to pass today, no matter how much you may feel like you're trapped between the Red Sea and Pharaoh's army, and you feel like you're going to be wiped out by the circumstance you're in, you can still only take it one day at a time. Vicky's advice was good to me. Vicky's a person of faith. I am too, but sometimes as people of faith, we need someone else who's a person of faith to come and speak the Word of God to us and strengthen us and fortify that foundation that our faith puts under us. I have that sign in my office today. One day at a time. Because I remember when I first came to this church, we faced some hard times. Amen? We didn't know where the next dollar was coming from to pay this or that. Maggie and I used to sit and look at those bills and go, which one do we pay? I had the insurance lady call me on the phone and said, your phone's been cut off. I can't believe your church is so poor that your phone was cut off. And I said, well, could you get a hold of us the last 2 weeks? She said, no. I said, then the phone was cut off, wasn't it? And we must be there. We've known times as a congregation. We've been between a rock and a hard place as a church. But God did not abandon us. And there was always someone speaking a positive word that's going to be okay. We're going to survive. We're going to come through this. And Maggie is in heaven smiling when she looks at our bank account today. This woman has never had to come to my office and say, look at the bills, which one are we going to pay? She's never had to do that. Praise God. It's not the disciples saying, hang on, Lord, we're going to fight for you. It's God saying, hang on, Jim, I'm going to fight for you. Hang on, Mickey, I'm going to fight for you. Hang on, Ron, I'm going to fight for you. When we're in a rock and a hard place. You see, the Israelites were wondering how they're going to get out of that spot. How are we going to get out? Here comes the army, and boy, I'm telling you, if that pillar of fire lifts, we're in deep trouble. That's the only thing that kept us separated through the night. And they're still up against the Red Sea. And Moses gives Israel some good advice. The first thing he tells them just before all this, while they're fretting and wringing their hands and worrying, the first thing that Moses said to them is, stand fast in your faith. Stand fast. We are not a society that does very good standing. We like to go, go, go. Amen? That's because we got cars. I remember Amanda Anders back in Alta Vista, Kansas. She was in her 90s when she was attending church there. And she said, you know what the death of the church was, Pastor Gary? She said, you know when the Christian church started to die? When it had cars. She was old enough to remember when you didn't drive a car to church, you see. She was old enough to remember when people came in their wagons, when people came on their horses, when people walked to church. She could remember all of that. She said church started going downhill when the cars started filling up the parking lots around the church. Well, I'm not so sure she was right. I really think that the death of the church was when the Sunday school level dropped below the worship attendance level. But anyway, she attributed it to that darn old automobile. She may have been correct. When I lived in Massachusetts, we used to drive down the coast, and I could sit by the Atlantic Ocean at 45, 50 miles an hour, all across down that Atlantic Ocean. I did not appreciate the immensity of that body of water, the power of that water, until I got out of my car, stopped, go, 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 and stood on the beach and let the Atlantic Ocean come and crash at my feet on those rocks. The power of what God has created. We do it all the time. We drive through western Kansas, and you know, sometimes there are those massive prairies. You know what I'm talking about? Those flat prairies. And I've got to tell you something. Stop and stand in the middle of a Kansas prairie and hear the wind go through the native grasses. You can hear the grass rustle. It's something like being next to the Atlantic Ocean. It's that same sort of experience, the largeness of it. You don't get it while you're speeding down the interstate. You get it when you stop and you stand in the middle of a prairie with the native grasses all around you and the wind blowing and you feel it moving. And then you see the power power of what God has created, the power that God has, if we stand. Moses' first advice is to stand fast in your faith. Stand there and don't be moved. No matter what comes, God is here in this place with me. Isn't that true? I can stand here and God is here. Is that true? Yes. Say amen. Amen. I can stand here and God is here. I can stand fast in my faith right here. And if I'm over here where Jim is, God is here. So I can stand fast here and God is still here. That means that God can come here and help me where I stand, and yet God can come over here and help Jim. And I would prefer God to come over here because he needs a lot more help than I do. No. Stand fast. Don't run. You know, when we get in that spot where we're fearful, psychologists tell us it's either fight or flight. We either want to beat up the person or the thing that's causing us that strain, or we want to run from it. And Moses isn't even telling them to react. He's just saying, stand fast. Stand fast in that spot between that rock and that hard place. Stand fast in your faith. The Red Sea will not drown me. The Egyptian army will not overcome me. I'm going to stand right here in my faith, and guess what? God is here with me. Yes? You think if you're standing in this place that God's going to say, whoa, the Egyptian army, I'm out of here. Does that sound like God? Whoa, the Red Sea is too big. I'm out of here. Israel, you're on your own. Patty, you're on your own. Teresa, you're on your own. God says, stand. Stand fast. Right here. I'm here with you. I know the Red Sea's there, and I know the army's there. But I'm here with you here. Stand fast. Good advice? Yes. This is where God is. Between the rock and the hard place, stand fast. Second bit of advice that Moses gives them is watch for the Lord. See what God will do, Moses says. You watch and see what God will do. What did God do in your past? I don't know about you, but I've been rescued time after time. I was in a wheelchair and using a walker. I can remember times when I was young, had a young bride, and we only had one kid in those days. We were praying, oh, please don't let that church treasurer be late with the check. Our bills to pay. You been there? Huh? Yeah, right? That can be a rock and a hard place when it's BPU breathing down your neck, huh? You know what I'm talking about. And all they're doing is they want what's theirs. You get the bill, you can't blame them. Sometimes I wish they were a little more sympathetic in between the harsh winter months, but still, they're asking for what they want. You can't help it if you live in one of these houses that's uninsulated, and as soon as you strike a match in the furnace, it goes right straight through the walls and the rotten windows, and that's what you can afford, ain't it? That's where you're at, between the rock and a hard place. And you stand fast in your faith, and then Moses says, watch what God will do. There are so many agencies out there that are trying their hardest to help people with that plight, that understand the condition of the housing, that understand how people can get in that sort of trouble. It's not hard. You're not being malicious. You're not trying to steal from the utility company or whatever it is, right? It's just that rock and the hard place where you got kids and you just paid off the utilities, but now you gotta go buy some food. Macaroni and cheese and hot dogs. Does it sound familiar? Macaroni and cheese and hot dogs. I vow, if I ever got to the place where I could pay my bills without worrying about it too much, I would never eat another box of Kraft macaroni and cheese. Amen? You know what happened? Mallory moved out! All the kids are gone, all the And me, and then every time I preach and I use this example, one of them moves back in. Somehow God saw me through those hard times, and you too, yes? We stand, we watch for what God will do. We watch for the ways that God will work. It isn't that God comes down and say, "Hey, Shauna, a shoebox full of money," and says, "Pay me to you." That's not how God works. God opens the door and shows us a pathway, maybe to a new job that pays more. Or maybe God shows us an agency that can step in and fill the gap for that month. Because God doesn't look 6 months ahead. God is worried about where you're at right here and right now. Amen? Stand fast. This is the place. This is the here. This is the now. Watch what God will do. So that maybe the door opens. The path is shown. The opportunity is suddenly there that wasn't there before. And we have to follow it. Which is the third thing that Moses said to him: expect to be delivered. Expect to be delivered. We walk around and we don't have expectation as people of faith. So many times we walk around and we expect to be defeated. We expect the bill to overcome us. We expect the hard time to come and get us. But Moses tells the people, expect to be delivered. Red Sea, Egyptian army, drowning, being slaughtered. And in the midst of that, Moses says, expect to be delivered. Do you live with the expectation that God is going to do something in your life, anything in your life? When we get up every day, we ought to be excited to see what God will do that day. To step down on the floor and before we get running, to stand firm in our faith, to watch for God in that moment, and to expect God to act in that day. Expectation. When we get in the car and we're driving around town, expecting to see what God will do. When we meet new people, when we come against people, even our people that we know well, to expect to see what God is going to do through that person's words, through that person's acts. To expect to see what God will do, how God will move, because God does not stand in one place. When we move, God goes with us. Isn't that true? So if God is in every step we make every single day, we should be expecting to see what God will do in this step, and this step, and this step, and this step. Because we're standing out in our faith. We're standing out in our faith. Here were the Israelites, standing firm in their faith, standing fast in their faith. Moses had them going. Standing fast in their faith. Water, chariots. Look for God. Moses raises his staff in his hands. The waters turn. You don't think they thought Moses did that, right? They knew who split the Red Sea for them. Now here's the trick. And I've told you this before, but I want you to remember it from this day forward. I have a Jewish friend who said the Red Sea did not split until the first Jew got his toe wet. You have to expect deliverance. Do you hear me? Moses said the Red Sea will split. Someone had to step. Someone had to take that first step. How would you do? Even at Shawnee Mission Lake, suddenly it opened up. Would you walk out there in the middle of that dry land with a wall of water on each side of you? Someone had to take that first step. Do you hear me? Someone had to get their toe wet the first time. Someone had to say, I'm expecting God to move in my life. I'm expecting God to deliver me. Moses' advice is good advice for every single one of us, because if you're not putting a rock in the hard place today, you may be tomorrow, amen? Or at some time in your future. No one said because we accepted Jesus Christ that every day was going to be a bed of roses. Jesus called us to walk in faith, to do this faith journey through our life every single day, professing Him, living in Him, living in what He taught, living in what He did, living in what He revealed to us. That's our call, to walk in faith. And all Moses advises us to do is to stand firm in that faith. Remember, Jesus said persecution may come, or other troubles. But we stand firm in that faith that we walk in. We look for God, look for God, look for God, look for God. And in every moment, in every breath, we expect God to deliver us. In Jesus' name, amen.